Construct a polynomial function of least degree possible using the given information. We have real roots, -1 with a multiplicity of 2 and 1. And we know that we have an ordered pair, which is 2, and this is f of 2, which is equal to 2, 1. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use the fact that we have these are our roots. So that means that if it's 3 roots, then that means we're going to have a cubic function. So first thing we need to do is identify what those roots are. So that we know that we have a multiplicity at -1. We have C1, which is equal to -1. We have C2, which is equal to -1. And then we have C3, which is equal to +1. So now we're going to write out the standard function. So we know that it's going to be f of x, which is going to equal a constant a times x minus C1 times x minus C2 times x minus C3. And so now what we're going to do is we're then going to rewrite this now, plugging in the values of c from step 1. So this is f of x, which is equal to a times x minus a -1 times x minus a -1 times x minus 1. So let's simplify that a little further. So we have f of x, which is equal to a times x plus 1 times x plus 1 times x minus 1. So now what we're going to do is we can multiply these two together. So we have f of x, which is going to equal a times x plus 1. Now when we multiply x plus 1 times x minus 1, that's the difference of squares. So that becomes x squared minus 1. And now we want to be able to multiply these together. So we have f of x, which is equal to a times, well, if we want to use the box method, we have x and then 1, and then we have x squared and then minus 1. So x times x squared is x cubed, x times -1 is -x, 1 times x squared is x squared, and then 1 times -1 is -1. So what that means here is that we end up getting x cubed plus x squared minus x minus 1. So now what we want to do is we want to be able to solve for the value of a, and we got to use the information it's given above here, which tells us that f of 2 is equal to 1. So that means that we need to use the fact that f of 2 is going to equal 1, and then we're going to plug it into this form to find out what a is. Well, what that means is that we know that f of x, so we're going to write this out. So this is going to be f of 2, which is equal to a times, we have 2 cubed plus 2 squared minus 2 minus 1. Okay, and then what do we know about f of 2? We know it's equal to 1. So therefore we got 1, which is equal to a times 2 squared, which is 2 cubed, which is 8, plus 2 squared, which is 4, minus 2 minus 1. So we get 1, which is equal to a times 8 plus 4 is 12, minus 2 is 10, minus 1 is 9. So now what we have is 1, which is equal to 9 times a, and if we want to solve for a, we divide both sides by 9, and then a is equal to 1/9. And so now what we can do is, now that we know what a is, we can now plug it back into what we found in part 3, because f of x was equal to a times x cubed minus x squared minus x minus 1. So therefore, our function f of x is going to be, we found a to be 1/9 times x cubed minus x squared minus x minus 1. And therefore, there is your solution.